Welcome everybody to Mudflood was Armageddon, formerly Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age Past. Originally before that it was called Flat Earth Nation de Aria Patarita, but the Latin was so confusing for people, I had to change it to the closest equivalent to de Aria Patarita, Golden Age Past, losing a lot of the nuance of the being ruled with a rod of iron, you know. And it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. Mudflood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Operation Deep Freeze and Operation Paperclip is what I said this morning, but we're not going to be looking at Paperclip probably. We're going to be looking at maybe Operation High Jump and the International Geophysical Year. And then we're going to get back into robots, digging into the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, letting that let us slide into Baroque architecture, Gothic cathedrals, flying buttresses. We'll see where the spirit leads us. I'm talking about my generation. We won't get fooled again this afternoon. Did any of you guys pick up on those being titles of, or catchphrases from The Who, the band The Who? Another setups there. And then when I said personally, I never have too much time on my hands. That's a line, a stick play on words from the band Styx from Kankakee, Illinois, and famous for their song Mr. Roboto. Then I wrote down Roskin's robots did not conceive themselves or itself, as if an elf on a shelf is not an idol. Just playing with words. Almost everyone thinks they are not on the clock, but they have been wrong before. On the clock means your days are numbered. We all gonna die. Train to wake up and simply walk to the store. I wrote that down thinking that when your stores are empty, because eventually they will be, what are you going to do? You with the rest of your day? Where their treasure is piled up right behind the door, not wanting to go stacked from the ceiling, from the floor, I decided to go with hitch in the giddy up disrupts the cup that used to overflow. That's still talking about the store. Pretenders can't be defenders. Pretenders was the name of a band. A lot of people my age used to hear an introduction to from the Pretenders when they listened to Rush Limbaugh, and we were fooled into believing that they thought that was really cool and good advice. False bravado seems real to those who are not fearing God alone. So we got that going on. I only got one new picture, and I'll show it to you. It's a picture of Cy Hurst. So I was listening to his interview about the Nord Stream and, his proof of how the United States destroyed the Nord Stream. And he ended up, talking about how he broke news for Vietnam, which he says what's coming is probably a bigger mistake, like, than Vietnam. And then when he was doing, complaining about the way that LBJ reacted, he said, well, that's just what they do. They respond to the crown and not the Constitution. And I found that to be a very telling, word in passing, as Seymour Hersh probably let that slip, and probably not a lot of people caught it. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got a screenshot of it, letting you know that they respond to the crown and not the Constitution. Your Constitution, you want to restore America? Please, I want to welcome JP. I want to welcome Matt G. I want to say, hey, Bob Marley and Fractal Dust Bear, how you guys doing? And then Zach is in the house. Fractal Dust Bears. You know, whenever I hear the word Zach, I used to call this one guy Zach Macanudo. But that was him, not this Zach. I don't know. So there's our pictures. What do we got here? Oh, another picture, huh? That's in Notre Dame, I think. We'll look at that later. Here we'll pick up. I have this one spot saved here from. This is a reading of the play Rossum's Universal Robots. This is an important part, very important. Listen to what they're talking about.
What? Why? Why don't you make them happier?
That wouldn't do, Miss Glory. They are only workmen.
But they're so intelligent.
Confoundedly so, but they're nothing else. They've no will of their own. No passion, no soul.
No love.
Love? Rather not. Robots don't love. Not even themselves.
Nor defiance.
Defiance? I don't know. Only rarely from time to time.
What?
Nothing particular. Occasionally they seem to go off their heads. Something like epilepsy, you know. It's called robot's cramp. They'll suddenly sling down everything they're holding, stand still, gnash their teeth, and then they have to go into the stamping mill.
Whoa, those crazy robots. We'll listen to a little bit more, go a little bit further back. Who is this girl that's talking? In the play, she is the head of the Humanity League. She wants personhood for robots. Oh, come on now.
Because you know I've come to disturb your robots for you.
My dear Miss Glory, we've had close upon 100 saviors and prophets here. Every ship brings us some. Missionaries, anarchists, Salvation Army, all sorts. It's astonishing what a number of churches and idiots there are in the world.
And you let them speak to the robots.
So far, we've let them all. Why not? The robots remember everything, but that's all. They don't even laugh at what the people say. Really, it is quite incredible. If it would amuse you, Miss Glory, I'll take you over to the robot warehouse. It holds about 300,000 of them.
347,000.
Good. And you can say whatever you like to them. You can read the Bible, recite the multiplication table, whatever you please. You can even preach to them about human rights.
Ugh, I think that if you were to show them a little love.
Impossible, Miss Glory. Nothing is harder to like than a robot.
What do you make them for then?
That's good. What are robots made for?
For work, Miss Glory. One robot can replace 2.5 workmen. The human machine, Miss Glory, it was terribly imperfect. It had to be removed sooner or later.
It was too expensive.
It was not effective. It no longer answers the requirements of modern engineering. Nature has no idea of keeping pace with modern labour. For example, from a technical point of view, the whole of childhood is a sheer absurdity. So much time lost. And then again,
Oh, no, no.
pardon me, but kindly tell me, what is the real aim of your league, the Humanity League?
Its real purpose is to protect the robots and ensure good treatment for them.
Not a bad object either. A machine has to be treated properly. Upon my soul, I approve of that. I don't like damaged articles. Please, Miss Glory, enroll us all as your contributing or regular foundation members of your league.
No, you don't understand me. What we really want is to liberate the robots.
How do you propose to do that?
They are to be dealt with like human beings.
Aha. I suppose they're to vote, to drink beer, to order us about.
Why shouldn't they drink beer?
Perhaps they're even to receive wages.
Of course they are.
Fancy that now. And what would they do with their wages, pray?
They would buy what they need, what pleases them.
That would be very nice, Miss Glory. Only there's nothing that does please the robots. Good heavens, what are they to buy? You can feed them on pineapples, straw, whatever you like. It's all the same to them. They've no appetite at all. They've no interest in anything.
Robots, schmobots. You know, the Humanity League. They got it all figured out, right? I don't think so. So what it was the International Geophysical Year. Human rights are robot rights. The International Geophysical Year was an international scientific project that lasted from July 1957 until 1959, having ended at midnight, December 31st, 1958. It marked a long period during the Cold War when scientific interchange between East and West had been seriously interrupted. 67 countries participated in the International Geophysical Year projects, although one notable exception, China, which was protesting against the participation of Taiwan. And wow, who would think that 64 and a half years later, China and Taiwan are still in the news? No one. No one. Encompassed 11 earth sciences, aurora, airglow, cosmic rays, geomagnetism, gravity, my brother Randy's favorite topic, ionospheric physics, longitude, latitude, determinations, precision mapping, meteorology, oceanography, seismology, and solar activity. Solar power was first used on their trip. I think we'll pick that up, and maybe Operation High Jump. They'll get into a little bit more of that. The timing of the International Geophysical Year was particularly suited for studying some of these phenomenons since it covered the peak of solar cycle C19. Both the Soviet Union and the United States launched artificial satellites for this event. The Soviet Union Sputnik 1, launched on October 4th, was the first successful artificial satellite. Warner Van Braun launched one for the United States. They didn't care about using military ones then. So Stalin died in 53, and then took a while after that, things going on. Intended to launch small Earth circling satellites in 1955. Thank you, science fiction. Oh, here we go. To the surprise of many, the USSR, the United Soviet Socialist Republic, launched Sputnik 1 as the first artificial Earth satellite. After several failed Vanguard launches, Werner von Braun and his team convinced former Nazi Operation Paperclip head of the class #1 draft pick goes to the United States of America. We'll take Werner von Braun. Anyway, he had the ear of the President of the United States, a former 5-star general, to use one of their U.S. Army missiles. Says missile. There was not yet an inhibition about using military rockets to get into space. So, Secretary of Defense on November 8th instructed the U.S. Army to use a modified Jupiter C rocket to launch that satellite. And blah, boom, 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 Explorer 1. Then the Soviet launches would be followed by considerable political consequences, one of which was the creation of the U.S. Space Agency on July 29th, 1958. So a year and 49 weeks later, they landed on the moon. You believe that one? You probably don't. So we have the World Data Center. Although 1932 polar year accomplished many of its goals, it fell short because of the advance of World War II. Well, really, did World War One? I mean, 1932. They knew World War II was coming. And why doesn't the 1932 polar year have a blue highlighted link? So right switch, boom, it goes to the International Polar Year. The International Polar Year are collaborative international efforts with intensive research focus on the polar regions. Karl Weyprick, an Austro-Hungarian naval officer, motivated the endeavor way back in 1895. Oh, wow. Was that around the time of this Steam Man of the Prairie and TikTok? Stay on one topic, Mr. Hughes. Never heard of, though, the International Polar Station. Rather than settling for traditional individual or national efforts, they pushed for a coordinated scientific approach to researching Arctic phenomena and explaining it away, is my guess. Took 7 years for the International Polar Year, the first one, which had only 11 participating nations. Observations focused again, meteorology, geomagnetism, aurora phenomena, ocean currents, tide structure, and the motion of ice and atmospheric electricity, because they didn't know nothing about those things. Second International Polar Year was the next year, 32 to 33, shortly after World War I, waiting on World War II. Fact that the electrical geophysics of the Earth needed more study. The availability of airplanes was going to help them. Fourth one was in 2007, 2008. That might have been, you might have been alive during that time. Come on, I know you were. Estimated 50,000 researchers, local observers, educators, students, support personnel from more than 30 countries were involved in that one. So Norway, Oslo, 2010, culminating right about the time, of when you were getting off of your NASA kick and your globe-loving cognitive dissonance. and they were sending John Kerry and the Pope and a bunch of people to Antarctica, and people were writing books about it. Then next thing you know, you heard about Swabia and that Hitler was up there, and that according to the Rosicrucian Admiral Byrd, there's hidden land up there, and that's where the armies of the North are going to come from, like there isn't a dome and an ice wall. Come on, man. Geophysical year. Let me wrap this up here. See if I can glean anything. Wilkes Station, very interesting. Not the one that supposedly had a nuclear reactor, portable nuclear reactor, but just regular power. International Geophysical Year. Operation Deep Freeze, code name for a series of missions to Antarctica by the US of A, beginning in 1955-56, followed by Operation Deep Freeze 2 and Operation Deep Freeze 3, and so on. There was an initial operation before Admiral Richard Byrd proposed deep freeze, giving the continuing and constant U.S. presence in the United States since that date. Operation Deep Freeze has come to be used as a general term for U.S. operations in that supposed continent, and in particular for the regular missions to supply the United States Antarctic bases. According to coordinated by the U.S. Military Task Force 199 was involved. Swipe it, write it, task force. They're not going to get into it. They're going to just talk about task force. Looks like this is for some game or something. So that was prior to the international year. The U.S. Navy already had a record of earlier exploration in Antarctica as early as 1839. Since the resets, they had to try to rediscover everything and put it in a nice package and wrap it up. They don't go much further here. Operation Deep Freeze. The impetus behind Operation Deep Freeze was the International Geophysical Year, collaboration effort among 40 nations to carry out Earth science studies from the North Pole to the South Pole, as if there was a South Pole. Task Force 43, George Dufek. Hey, what's this? Having designed the emblem of Task Force 43, Walt Disney became an honorary member of the expedition. Are you kidding me? The expedition transpired over the Antarctic summer of November 55 to April 56 and was filmed by the U.S. Navy and Walt Disney Studios. Walt Disney, a personal friend, and that's where I first saw Warner von Braun. He was always a special guest. Did you know that they used to have a TV show called The Wonderful World of Disney every Sunday night? Came on after I won't tell you the name, but I'm going to go bum 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 bum. Yep, Bonanza. Bonanza, one of the longest running TV shows for brainwashing, slightly less of a run than Gunsmoke, another brainwashing, wanting people to remember all of you know, the made up stuff about cowboys and Indians and everything, like any of that really ever happened. Operation Deep Freeze. But there are penguins there. There's a couple of them right there. Airmen saluting the last LC-130 to depart from Antarctica in 2010. All right. So where we go. Which one was it? Was it Murdo? Anyway, they had they even say they built a nuclear reactor up there one time. Operation High Jump. We're going to get into looking at some Starforts architecture really soon. High Jump, officially titled the United States Navy Antarctic Development Program, 1946 to 1947. United States Navy operation to establish Antarctica research base Little America. Little America. Arctic exploration bases from 1929 to 1958 located on the Ross Ice Shelf. Once again, Admiral Byrd, Rosicrucian, John Birch member, family involved in the so-called assassination of JFK. From Tyler, Texas, I believe, home base for your John Birch Society. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. This has all become so very boring to me. Anyway, Admiral Byrd and all of there's extra land out there. Anybody still believe that? I feel sorry for you. Okay. That, we should trust Admiral Byrd. He let it leak on the news that there's a land bigger than the United States north of the North Pole that we never knew about. Oh, please. Please. Rossum's Robots, TikTok, federal program. So I wanted to go over this one article about the iron, not steel, but iron. When a fire destroyed the Notre Dame Cathedral's famous spire and most of the roof, and was it way back in 2019? The immediate damage and subsequent renovation efforts unsuspectingly revealed large iron staples. Well, we've seen those type of iron staples that hold the canals together. You've seen videos recently of look at how these things have so much in common of large iron staples holding many of the building stone blocks together. Analysis have now shown that Notre Dame was the first Gothic cathedral to use such iron reinforcement throughout its structure, a fact that highlights the iconic building as a high-tech modern marvel of its time. You realize they were doing things that were like the Empire State Building around 1930. They were doing that things like this. You realize they were doing things that were like the Empire State Building around 1930 or like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Really extraordinary stuff for the time, says Robert Bork, not the former nominee for the Supreme Court. This is not Dr. Robert Bork, but it may be probably a PhD. He goes on to say, you can compare it to the moonshot in the 1960s, and you can compare it to some of the big high-tech initiatives now. Large iron staples. Notre Dame was the tallest building ever constructed when the project first began in medieval Paris during the 1160s, give or take 1,000 years. Examination of the cathedral during its ongoing renovation was allowed. Well, thank you, Maxime Lehautier at Paris 8 University, for allowing them to do that. He and his colleagues estimate that the building has thousands of staples at all levels of its 32-meter height, from the floor to the upper walls. The fact that the framework burned made some staples that could not be visible before appear to us. He described each staple as being about 50 centimeters long and weighing between 2 and 4 kilograms. So he's not just talking. I mean, when he's saying large staples, he means large staples, because 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So 4 kilograms, you're looking at it like that. That's not what I want you to think of as like a staple in your little red swing line. Closer analysis of the 12 staples showed that they were used in the earliest stages of the cathedral's construction, each sample being an alloy of carbon and iron. So maybe it was a type of steel. By dissolving the iron to leave behind the carbon that originated from charcoal used in the medieval ironworking furnaces. So that's advanced ironworking, even for this day. When you use charcoal to get that extra heat. 4,000 degrees is what it takes to make steel. Okay. Where is the one about the doggone Notre Dame? We'll just have to look up Notre Dame, I guess. I had something up. There I am, just digging in on being, study. Okay. Notre Dame de Paris, medieval Catholic cathedral. Cathedral is a church that contains a cathedra, a seat of a bishop, thus serving as the central church of a diocese, conference, or episcopaliate. Churches with the function of cathedral, usually specific to those denominations with an episcopal hierarchy, not Roman Catholic. But, Presbyterian, Episcopal are the same thing. They're very similar. So I want to look at Romanesque. We'll look at that later. Rib vault, flying buttresses. The cathedral is dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Well, it is now. We don't know if it was then, and is one of the finest examples of French Gothic. We'll look at that too. Construction began in 1163. largely completed by 1260, modified during successive centuries. Excuse me. Bottom's out of there. Victor Hugo's 1831 publication of the novel Notre Dame de Paris, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, inspired interest which led to the restoration between 1844 and 1864. So 20 years to make a tourist destination. On August 26, 1944, the liberation of Paris from German occupation was celebrated in Notre Dame by the singing of the Magnificat, the Song of Mary, and trust me, she is blessed among women, but she's not, co-redemptus with Jesus Christ, as I'm sure she'll tell you someday in heaven. All right. So a lot of interesting things, but what are we here for? Pictures. These are cross section of the double supporting arches, large staples. People tried to build these without the staples and they didn't have any luck. Arrows show the forces that are involved in, being dispersed by the flying buttresses so that you can have this big open space here. You need this open space, so you need all of these extra things to keep it strong. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get this thing going here. This kind of looks like, and with all of that, like a big antenna, right? Cross section. A lot of angles. More angles on the rib vaults. Massive buttresses. Yeah, whenever you think about let's build a church today, this is what pops into people's mind like, yeah, if they could do it back then, we could do it today. Uh-huh. Sure. If they, let people, tell you that, oh yeah, we could make the bricks and we could do this and every little thing. Look at this little hunched over gargoyle in there, whatever they got going. People want you to think, my granddaddy could do it. He was super bad. Look at that. That's a drain pipe. Nice fancy drain pipes. Wow. And I'm not making, I like pictures too. I like looking at them. I like the Bible more, but these are cool. Mucho Lico. Yeah, Paula, you'd like to think that people like to tell that the citizens were still using horse and buggy back then, but they could also pick themselves up by their bootstraps. Is that, you can't really do that. Here's the Henry VI coronation. A little bit of a drawing of what it was like back then. Hi, I'm Henry VI. Not as famous as Henry VIII. Semaphore codes on the floor. I'm just kidding. Those are probably not semaphore codes. Showed this picture earlier. I'll show it again because it's such a nice Starfort city of how they lived back in the day. It's also how they lived during Bible times. Gathering that atmospheric electricity, maybe that's what these spires were for. What are these things on the left in the margin are intriguing to me too. They got to mean something besides just being decorative. Similar patterns on the collar of this horse. This guy's got two swords. He's okay. So here's the interior. Here's why they need those flying buttresses. So they need these big open spaces so that they can have this. I don't know what they're doing here. Singing a song, maybe. Sure, a lot different than the benches that they pull in for the chairs when they act like it used to be a church or whatever it was for. No permanent chairs, no pews. Let's see what this is all about. A choir in 1669 during the reign of Louis XIV. The choir was redesigned to make room for more lavish ceremonies. Okay, bet it was. There's the old baptistry on the left, fountain in the square. The cult of reason is celebrated at Notre Dame during the French Revolution. They said, yes, this is the cult of reason because they banned all the churches there when they were getting that liberty, fraternity, and, compared, the revolution in France that was helped by Jefferson and Ben Franklin. Went to a 10-day work week because they didn't want anything to do with the 7-day work week of the Bible. Did you know that? It's true. It's true. They would rather have had a cult of reason. Yikes. Look at the arrival of Napoleon. A nice shot of the flying buttresses and big party tent here. Where's Napoleon? Which one is Napoleon? Maybe he's in the cart? I don't know. Nice picture, though. Coronation of Napoleon. Is this the picture where he's crowning himself? Looks like it. Said, I don't want you to crown me, Pope. I'm Napoleon. See all these people here, they probably go like, look, I made it in the picture. You know they did. All these people in the background, their relatives saying, I know that guy. Gaslit candles, more than likely. The powers behind the throne. Jacobeans, I'm sure. On December 2nd, 1804, coronation of Napoleon by Napoleon himself. Western facade, proposed doorway. That's a doorway. These are the size of the people. Okay. Wow. Something else going on up here in this picture too. Very decorative door. Here it is, beginning the restoration work. This looks like it's been laying dormant for quite some time, but thanks to those metal staples, it was still held together. Still held together, and all you had to do was brush it up, clean it up, and you're back in business. Looks like they cropped this picture to show how the arches ran much deeper. Very interesting. I think I'll save this picture. Might come in handy some other time. So this is after they had gotten it cleaned up a little bit. It's not so dirty as that last picture anymore. Got the ground level figured off so they can't see the arches that were underneath it. Who knows how big this thing really is? 1930s, getting ready for World War II. There's the naves. There's the fire from 2019. Melted some bricks and they saw the structure. Here's a picture Captain Caveman will probably like to see with who knows how many hidden messages the computers have put in this. I'm just guessing a lot. They're not my Venus. They're not my fire. They're not my desire. Animation. This is an animation, people. You're looking at an animation. All right. That's an animation showing the south facade before and after the fire. Scaffolding had been erected as part of the renovations underway when the fire had started. Interesting animation. That's where the ceiling collapsed. That's the part of the ceiling that was destroyed. Ongoing stabilization. As we can say, as we remember, underneath here, you know, who knows how deep it goes, where we saw arches in that previous picture. Could see the tops of them left exposed for people like Do, Re, Mi, and you. Hey, the Gallery of Chimeras, pictured in 1910 by Jorge Redon. These are drain the water off. Look at these things just sitting up there. It's fun, huh? There's a spire to inspire you. A rooster, you know, weather vane, requillery, you might call it. Some people call that. Slightly damaged in the rubble. Copper, probably. Another spire. Statue of Thomas the Apostle at the base of a spire. Copper patina. Illustration of the Last Judgment. Goats and sheep weighed in the balance, and we do not want to be found wanting. Beautiful. Oh, wow. Holding his head, St. Denis. Yikes. Adam and Eve. Part of the Last Judgment on the central portal of the western facade. Another Archangel Michael. Weighing the souls. Okay. I think that's not very theologically accurate. Gargoyle, Strynx, another word. Gargoyles, rainspouts of the cathedral. Chimera, animal-human hybrid is what a chimera is. Alchemy, an allegory of alchemy, Jacob's ladder. The earliest rosed window, they say, from 1225. You know, glass was very hard for them to make. The West Rose window, and a reminder, glass was very hard for them to make until the 1940s. North Rose windows, lots of rose windows. Another one of those fancy type of statues. Looks like it had a lot of jewels encrusted upon it. A lot of pictures for the Notre Dame. The Great Organ. Knock it off, you guys. That could get you, that could, look at all those pipes, man. I bet that thing could get loud. The utility door on the ceiling. Right here. Probably a hole for their bass speaker. Or you could call it a utility door. There's one of the bells that they were ringing in that book, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Remember, the Hunchback was ringing the bell. The bells are driving me crazy. More illustrations, more bells. 9 new bells. Bats in the belfry. This the new roof or the old roof? One of the 4 clock faces at Notre Dame in the 1800s. Lots of chimes. Notre Dame at the end of the 1800s. Hanging out with one of the Chimera. Vestments. These are the clothes that the priests would wear. Are you kidding me? Those were the priest's clothes. Those are vestments. Very big. Very big place. And everything around it looks very Starforty also. Wow, there's a lot of pictures here. South Rose window, more flying buttresses, memorial tablet to the British Empire dead. Closer look at the Last Judgment thing. Statue of the Joan of Arc. Detail of the Pentanum on the Last Judgment. Another facade shot. There you go. The French road system's point zero is in front of Notre Dame since 1924. So that's your known point when you want to start your surveys for their road system. Romanesque architecture was an architectural style of medieval Europe characterized by semicircular arches. There is no consensus for the beginning date of the Romanesque style. Well, that's very convenient. Hey, Captain Caveman, I just showed a picture and it said, even though you weren't here, I said, I bet when you see it, you'll be interested. It's one of the ones from the fire. Might I suggest you take a look at it and see if you want to do that thing you do with it? It just looks suspicious beyond get out. Hi, Headley Man BC. Please give Paco a like, Headley Man said. And you know what? Do it. Do it. Not because I'm asking you, but because Hadley Man suggested it. Arches, no consensus for the beginning date of the Romanesque style. How convenient. And their proposals, they have 500 years. So there is this style, Romanesque architecture, and your guess is as good as theirs for 500 years of when they made Romanesque architecture. Nobody has any history of these things. You know, it's like, well, we don't know. It could be 500 years of when it started. I wish that Randy was here because it's nice to hear him laugh, and he probably would laugh about that. Twisted pillars. That's kind of cool. 500 years of mystery surrounding Romanesque architecture. A small rotunda. A Romanesque house. Civic hall. Come on, people now. Smile on your brother. Nice wood shaped. I wonder if they have any flying buttresses outside this wood ceiling. Large staples were used in Notre Dame, up to 10 pounds, holding the blocks together, in case you forgot that. Another Charlemagne in the Palatine Chapel. Probably has staples in there too. Another interior shot of another high ceiling vaulted roof. What do we got up there? Anything cool? Oh, yeah. Possible cymatic patterns. Romanesque. So the big takeaway on Romanesque is that it was a mystery within 500 years of when they started it. This one, so it says 12th to 13th century, one of the many built by the Normans. So just didn't know when it started, but they know right about when they wrapped that one up. Small church, Romanesque style. An abbey, a little bit bigger, Romanesque. Rounded corners, I guess, are what they're kind of looking for. Church of the Holy Sepulchre in what they call Jerusalem. It's rotunda inspired by the construction of many Romanesque circular churches. Okay. Crusader Knights like to build in the Romanesque style because why not? Romanesque. Another monastery. Could be a fort. Could be something, you know, there's places like this everywhere across the world. Wow. I guess we just, I mean, there are so many. Little Berber style right there, Hildesheim. 2 columns beneath pillars. Malmesbury Abbey has hollow core columns, probably filled with rubble. Another, they don't know. They're just guessing, I guess. I guess they're guessing. Doric, the simplest form of a pillar. anthropomorphized details in a capital of Corinthian. The capital would be this part that, it has, you see the round part, and then it starts that, and then this base, that is everything between that is the capital. So when you read about those in the Bible, that's what they're talking about, a decorative capital. Corinthian style, highly decorated. Doric is very simple. Ionic is in between. Oh, wow. Fish one. Oh, if you want to call those fish, I guess. Angels. Painted barrel vaulted ceilings. They just don't build them like they used to. We don't build these today. And this isn't even Notre Dame. Wow. Lisbon Cathedral. And you remember what a cathedral is. It has a seat for a Presbyterian bishop or elder. They're everywhere. So many. That's what the world was like before we end up in our prison planet, as the disgraced Alec Jones likes to call it. Who didn't see that coming when he got that one girl on there doing the news? Who didn't see that one coming? Romanesque. What's a rib vault? So they show these rib vaults. Rib vaults are something that we need welding to take care of today, because who wants to do this? Who wants to spend all the time and labor when you can just get a couple of welders and go boom, boom, now we're done? It's cheaper, it's faster, and it doesn't take all of this money and stone and everything else and flying buttresses and all that math. It just boom, boom. I guess you just put a clamp on it, tack it, and knock it out. Rib vaults. Rib vaults are hard. Look at these. 962, the Great Mosque of Cordoba, rib vaults. Well, nowadays people would put bids on this and it would blow your mind, and they'd say, no, we don't do this anymore. This is not for us. Oh, the picture was of when the Notre Dame was on fire in 2019, Captain Caveman. That's one I thought you might want to look at. That, wow. Yeah, we don't do this anymore. And anybody that, like, those people that go like, those guys that think that, there's something to all these Starforts and stuff and that we couldn't build them, they're stupid. Okay. Well, wow, you really hurt my feelings. I think I'll change my mind because you mocked me. Probably not, though. Boy, rib vaults. Rib vaults made to last. I wonder if they're going to be finding those large staples in any other buildings like they found in Notre Dame. Rib vaults with a nice picture on the top. Pattern. Love it. I should look at pictures more often. But there's so much of this Bible to study. We're going to be reading Job 38 tonight, Lord willing. Look at that. Wow. They had to have some flying buttresses on that. You guys had enough rib vaults? You want to look at the flying buttresses? I'm just going to burn through some of these rib vaults here. I didn't know there were so many and so big and so highly decorative. I just thought I'd go like rib bolts. Yeah, there's a few, but they're everywhere and they're massive and they're just doggone it awesome. That Loan Cathedral. Got to bring that one up. That's big. Yeah, a lot of bricks, a lot of stone, geopolymer. Everything's geopolymer. Man, those guys are just driving me nuts. They're getting on my nerves like all these people like there's extra land at the North Pole. Just as annoying to me. Rib vaults. Flying buttresses are a little bit. I'll tell you, I had to study those hard. Look at this one in the Rouen Cathedral. I mean, this looks like it could be just another one like Notre Dame. It's in France. Established in Rouen. It says about 260. So it's going back even. They're not even trying to fake the extra 1,000 years. Wow. There's this copper weather vane up there. My goodness. Little protective netting. Wow. Look at this thing. Wow. Tallest building in the world from 1876 to 1880, 151 meters. That is over 300 feet. There's a picture of the Starfort city. The bridge in the Starfort, 1664. Oh, there was a fire there, got hit by a bomb on D-Day, just before D-Day. Very similar. Wonder if that's another portrait of the Last Supper type situation. Kind of looks like it. Oh, that is Portal of Notre Dame. Wow. North Buttress of the Apostles. Me likey. Rib vaults. The flying buttresses, not as visually appealing, but the strength, you couldn't have those high interiors that you needed for your speaker building without these on the outside for support to possibly add to the vibration or protect from over vibration. But the flying buttresses are these parts that lead up to support the main interior of the open space. So these are your flying buttresses. Here are these two on the outside at the Rotunda of Galleria in Thessalonica, which is there's 2 books of the Bible were written to Christians in that town. Oh, very small picture. More flying buttress, the neo-Gothic flying buttresses of the late 1800s. Very small flying buttress, but efficient nonetheless. Dressed stone, Notre Dame, we saw that picture. Here's how they're, I don't think they had the arrows on that other one of showing how the pressure is displaced. That allows it to go up that 100 feet for the 30 meters in the Notre Dame Cathedral. Famous for its flying buttresses. St. John's Cathedral in the Netherlands. Another abbey in France with a flying buttress. Look at this embellished flying buttress. Kind of looks like a kidney. Santiago de Castro in Mexico. Way to go, Mexico. You got the kidney-shaped flying buttress. Lincoln Cathedral, long flying buttress. Belgium. Back to England with a rather V-shaped flying buttress. Getting a little experimental there. Saving on material. Still looks cool. Cologne, Germany, long double flying buttresses with towers in between for added strength. That's quite a production right there. Washington, D.C., the National Cathedral. Wow. Another one from France, another with the double flying buttress with spears in between. Spires. Spear. I don't know how much I'm going to get to talk about robots, but I did talk about robots earlier today. Rossum's robots, so. But this is important too. French Gothic architecture, again, emerged in France in 1140 and was dominant until the mid 1500s. Notre Dame, Reims Castle, Chartres, Amiens, French Renaissance architecture. Whew. Wow, now that's some stained glass windows right there, huh? And people think that we, oh yeah, we can do this today. No problem. Right. We're not going bankrupt today around the world. What they mean to say is if we lived in the golden age or something like it, we could build this. But nowadays the mafia would be dipping their finger in all kinds of budget for this stuff. The extravagance is just out of this world. That really needs a better description, but wow. Wow. French Gothic. More flying buttresses. That is a sign of French Gothic. Gee whiz. Bourget Cathedral. Wow. Are you kidding me? And they, with a straight face, tell you, yeah, we could do this today if we wanted to. Uh-huh. I'm sure we could. Another one of those crazy window places. Wow. Could be the same one. we looked at pictures. Rose Window in Vincennes. Mont Saint Michel Abbey, 1448. Kind of white looking, huh? The hospital. Wow. We could get hooked on that all night. So here's why I couldn't see that first Notre Dame. I had a picture pulled up. I showed this picture earlier. Just seemed oriental to me. The faces on it. Occidental. For an abbey. Primitive sundial. By primitive, I'm trying to be complimentary, I guess. Depiction of a lion. Something near the south door of the church. That's busy. Cymatic patterns and wow. A lot more that meets the eye in some of these buildings. Hargetston Monastery. And a picture of a walnut tree destroyed by lightning. What do we got here? A message from JP. What's this?
Vatican City is an inspirational place. You don't need to be Catholic or even...
You know, I looked up this chronovisor. This is a free bonus. The word chronovisor. You know, what it is some baloney that, you know, they want you to believe in time travel. Chronovisor, some Roman Catholic hoax. Believe they could look back in time, the Philadelphia experiment, Iranian time machine, you know, the things about an iPhone in 1860, the picture of the young man wearing a, you know, this guy was a time traveler, the traveling hipster. You know, you've heard them all before. But it reminded me of a time when I was doing the Stones and the Stones were crying out. And maybe some of you remember, probably Randy might be the only one, but I was saying that when we are studying mica, and I was finding a lot of mica around the gold in the eye because there's a lot of gold in the eyeball, that the mica very well someday, you know, mica is that rock that comes in those little layers that peel off and different things like that. It is possible that someday someone can look at mica and see the last thing that a Nephilim saw before it died if it's imprinted on the mica. That's as close as you're ever going to get to time travel. What's this? Theater project, Notre Dame Cathedral. Doesn't want to study about alleged time travelers. I don't believe it. The Federal Theater Project, just wanted to remind you to, covered that this afternoon a little bit more in detail. How long have I been going here? Hour 20. All right, we got a rather long. What is the world's idea of success? Well, here's a picture of their success is to get a Nigerian man to do this in 1969, because then you can successfully eradicate things by, what they want you to believe is true. And they consider this success. For who? Doesn't that look like a ray gun? Something. So that's what they consider success. State of condition of meeting a defined range of expectations. And they view it as the opposite of failure to get them to do that. One person might consider a success what another person considers a failure. Nothing could be truer than that, because of what they consider a success. I most certainly do not. I consider it a failure of the human condition. They like to throw out the zero-sum game. Protestant work ethic would be successful. They think natural selection has been successful in evolution. Phenotypes, they don't know what that's about. Heritable traits and evolution are two different things. They considered Charles Darwin a success. All right. So their version and my version of success are way different. In philosophy and science, scientific theories, it says, are often deemed. There's something going on with my computer, because you guys know it never does that. It's been doing it all day. Are off. What in the heck? I try to highlight and go. I guess I can't highlight it as much. Scientific theories successful when they make predictions that are confirmed by experiments. And they want to count the Big Bang as a successful scientific, example. Something you can't prove, but somehow they've done some experiments about cosmic microwave. Goes back to the top. I'm going to keep being stubborn though. Big Bang nucleosynthesis, solar system. They think they've proved it all. Johannes Kepler. I'm going to open that up, save it to go start my studies tomorrow. So not only, with success, they consider it heuristic success. Heuristic is an approach to problem solving or self-discovery. Heuristics can be mental shortcuts that ease the cognitive load of making a decision. Trial and error, rule of thumb, educated guess, controlled problem solving. That's one way to get it. Inventor's paradox, psychology, overcome your cognitive biases by listening to people who make experiments and tell you what to believe based on their educated guesses, as long as they study the new ABCs, the anything but Christ. That's their goal. And of course, it leads to artificial intelligence, proposing the cognitive style of heuristic versus algorithmic thinking. Isn't that funny how success and heuristic eventually is going to lead you to the jab and artificial intelligence? Wow. I'm going to try to be lenient to the BIBLE. What are these shows I have pulled up? I'm just trying to click through these tabs. I got about a half hour later. That's from my earlier video. I was restudying.
Tall, narrow ovens.
The ovens are sealed from the air to prevent the coal from burning away.
How do they make
Fuel.
iron for those large staples?
In the 4,000-degree inferno needed to reduce the ore to molten iron. Before the coal can begin the demanding task of smelting iron, it must be transformed into a more efficient form called coke. The process begins by loading a blend of coals into a series of tall, narrow ovens. The ovens are sealed from the air to prevent the coal from burning away in the 2,400-degree temperature. After baking for nearly a day, a 12-ton volcano of coke is pushed from the oven into an awaiting rail car. Reunited with oxygen, the coke ignites in a scorching dance. Like charcoal, the coke is now light, porous, and strong. A 9,000-gallon cold shower tempers the heated passion of the coke, sending a billowy plume of steam skyward. Completing the raw material list is limestone. Mined from quarries throughout the Midwest, this natural cleansing agent will collect the impurities released from the coke and ore. West Virginia coal, limestone from Kentucky, taconite from Minnesota, and a pinch of high-grade iron from South America. These earthly ingredients will ascend 20 stories to meet in the iron maker's colossal vat. Skip cars haul their carefully measured burden up the steep incline, delivering a steady supply of fuel and ore to the furnace. A pair of valves, called bells, allow the raw materials to enter the furnace without releasing the pressure of hot air and gases in the furnace. To our metallurgists, this giant structure is known as a countercurrent packed bed thermochemical pressure vessel.
Countercurrent packed bed thermochemical pressure thing. And you know what's craziest thing about all that? A pound of steel is cheaper than a pound of potatoes.
The letter of Paul to the Ephesians, chapter 1.
Vector, a band with Charlie Peacock. Vector space. Initialization vector, vector clock, vector space model, vector math, viral vectors, row and column vectors, flying buttress vectors. Used to be my favorite band, Vector, from Sacramento, featuring the great Charlie Peacock. Might want to check them out sometime. Banks collapsing all over the world, war, controlled leaks, chess. This is my algorithm. What's yours? Was looking at going over the word 1,000 in the Old Testament from Ezra 1:10. Cyrus, the king of Persia, brought these out in the charge of Mithridath, the treasurer, who counted them out to Shashbazzar, the prince of Judah. And this was the number of them: 30 basins of gold, 1,000 basins of silver, 29 censers, 30 bowls of gold, 410 bowls of silver, and 1,000 other vessels. All the vessels of gold and silver were 5,400. Was the Bible like the golden ages and, things that are beyond your imagination? Yes. Yes, it was. Do they try to paint the people in the Bible as near cavemen? Yes. Yes, they do. Is Cyrus a God-fearing person? He most certainly was. Did he help? Yes, he certainly did, as did Darius and Nebuchadnezzar. We're still digging into 1,000. Still digging into something here. Just very interesting. Ephesians 1:3. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us in the heavenly realms because we are united with Christ. In the New King James Version, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places in Christ. From the 10th chapter of Job, verse 11, or 12th chapter, does not the ear test words as the palate tastes food? Kind of when I heard that this afternoon when I was listening to the Bible and pondering the Word of God, it made me think of vibrations and how they have engineered food that your taste buds actually open up chemically to make you think that a Dorito is the most delicious thing you could ever eat. Does not the ear test words as the tongue tastes its food? We'll be closing up tonight with Job chapter 38 and 39. The Lord answers Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens counsels by words without knowledge? Dressed for action like a man, I will question you, and you make it known to me. Remember, this is God. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? And if you think that the Notre Dame and those other flying buttresses are complex, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb, when I made clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come and no further, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling light? And where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days great. Have you entered the storehouse of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no man is, on a desert in which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth? And who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season? Or can you guide the bear with its children? Speaking of the stars in heaven. Verse 33, do you know the ordinance of the heavens? Can you establish their rule on earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can tilt the water skins of the heaven, when the dust runs into a mass and the clods stick fast together? Can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of young lions when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey, when its young ones cry to God for help, and wander about for lack of food? Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the does? Can you number the months that they fulfill? And do you know the time when they give birth? When they crouch, bring forth their offspring, and are delivered of their young. Their young ones become strong. They grow up in the open. Then they go out and do not return to them. Who has let the wild donkey go free? Who has loosed the bonds of the swift donkey? To whom I have given the arid plain for his home, and the salt land for his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city. He hears not the shout of the driver. He ranges the mountains as his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. Is the wild ox willing to serve you? Will he spend a night in your manger? Can you bind him in the furrow with ropes? Or will he harrow the valleys after you? Will you depend on him because of his great strength, and will you leave him to your labor? Do you have faith in him that he will return your grain and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are they the pinions and plumage of love? For she leaves her eggs to the earth and lets them be warmed on the ground, forgetting that a foot may crush them, and that the wild beast may trample them. She deals cruelly with her young, as if they were not hers. Though her labor be in vain, yet she has no fear, because God has made her forget wisdom, and given her no share in understanding. When she rouses herself to flee, she laughs at the horse and its rider. Do you give the horse its might, Do you clothe its neck with a mane? Do you make him leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. He paws in the valley and exults in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not turn back from the sword. Upon him rattle the quiver, the flashing spear, and the javelin. With fierceness and rage, he swallows up the ground. He cannot stand still at the sound of the trumpet. When the trumpet sounds, he says, "Aha!" He smells the battle from afar, the thunder of captains and the shouting. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spread its wings towards the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the rock he dwells and makes his home, on the rocky crag and stronghold. From there he spies out his prey. His eyes behold it from far away. His young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there he is. A wonderful closing when we're talking about some of the animals that may be used to us as we have these last half of a generation to make it through when Satan will soon be trying to encompass about. The takeaway: I'd rather have a horse than an ostrich. I'd like men to be able to train hawks to hunt for you and me and your family. I'd also have mentioned before how pigeons are good to be used as a post office for intercommunication for those living away from the city. A lot of things to comprehend, a lot of things to work out. Somebody's going to do it. There will be a people encompassed about. There will be a people alive when Jesus returns for Gog and Magog. Blessed are those who make it. I hope that you're among them. I'm going to be praying for you. I hope that you'll be praying for me. I'm going to leave this show now with these words, reminding you that it's a flat earth nation. And I'm never going to tell you anything else except Mudflood was Armageddon, because I have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Adios.